What's up? This is part 2 of my Game of Thrones chapter breakdowns, if you want to call it that. This one we're going to be discussing Bran, so please do me a massive favor and slap a like on this video. Like goal is going to be as many as possible, but I like to do a little inside joke. I don't know if you'll get it if this is your first time watching this video, or one of my videos rather, but the like goal is going to be 420. If you know, then you know. Long night, and make sure you subscribe for more. Alright, so first things first, if you want to know what happens in the Game of Thrones prologue, check the link down below in the description, or one of the cards that goes off during this video will be, a link to that. I've already broken that down, released it maybe a week and a half ago, but go and check that out, so that way you know what I'm about to talk about. I kind of mentioned what happens in this POV chapter. But anyway, to start out with, Bran is a 7-year-old little boy from the north. His POV is the very first one we come across. And yes, Dan and Dave made him the king on the show. And you can debate me down below in the comment section, but that kind of actually makes the most sense. I don't think Bran will ever leave the cave. I don't think Bran will truly become a king who wears a crown, but I think Bran will become the most important individual in this story, right? So it makes sense that his is the first POV we get. One thing to take away is that he's a 7-year-old little boy going with his daddy to go roll some heads, to go chop some heads off, right? So that's a big theme in this story, is that during this time frame, which is based and mirrored upon medieval time of our own history here on Earth, you're forced to go through crazy things at an early age, right? So Bran is about to watch someone die willingly. Like he wants to go because he's old enough and he's excited, but also like everyone around him is like, yeah, make sure you watch, right? Jon Snow tells him, don't look away. Daddy will know if you look away, boy. Don't do it, right? So it's kind of like, sets the tones and the theme of these books, right? So everybody's getting raped. It don't matter who you are, right? Everybody's going to die. They raping everybody, right? One of the other things that I think is kind of interesting, this is probably the most wrong Old Nan has ever been, right? And she's not really wrong at all, but this is like the most wrong, right? So Bran is thinking about how north of the wall there's these people called wildlings, and Old Nan told him specifically they drink the blood out of polished horns. They lay with the others, with the White Walkers. They do everything you aren't supposed to do. They're the bad people, right? It's interesting because Bran, being a 7-year-old boy, doesn't really know any better. Even though Bran's 7, some of the other characters who are also children, right? They're just older teenagers, right? 16, 17, whatever. They also go back to what Old Nan says frequently when confronted with a new situation, right? Jon Snow in specific at the wall because he's always dealing with the Snarks and Grumpkins, right? So Bran is being forced to watch a deserter of the Night's Watch, Will. Right? He's this guy who has been at the wall longer than Jeor Mormont, who's the Lord Commander, right? This dude turned tail and ran, and we find out in Tyrion's POV chapter, right, through the eyes of Tyrion, I think it's like Tyrion 3, maybe Tyrion 4, when he makes it to the wall, he travels with Jon Snow when Jon Snow leaves Winterfell and goes north with Benjen. Tyrion wants to piss off the wall, right? So he goes there with him and he talks to Jeor and he's like, that's kind of crazy that this dude Will left because he's been here longer than I have. So whatever he saw must have been something crazy and something serious, right? So, that's kind of interesting to note. But anyway, Bran watches his head get removed, right? We get a description of ice. It's this blade that has been around since before the destruction of Valyria, right? It's this massive, long, great sword. It later becomes 2 Valyrian steel swords in service to House Lannister, but ultimately one of them gets back in the service of House Stark, right? That's some little bit of spoilers, right? Okay, so actually we got to backtrack a bit. Garrett is the one who's been at the Night's Watch the longest, and honestly, it's the show's fault for blaming me because they did something really stupid. They made Will the dude who gets past the wall and is the one who's beheaded by Ned. But that's not the case. It's actually Garrett. And like I said, I've mentioned that in my last... Anyway, continuing on here, Garrett's head rolls, lands near Theon's feet, and then Theon picks up the head, or kicks it aside, and he's laughing. And Bran notices that Theon is the eternal smiler, right? He's always joking. Basically, he's going to have his comeuppance because Jon Snow mutters something under his breath, and it's basically an insult to Theon. And then Jon goes off and races with Robb, and then Ned and Bran have a conversation. In this conversation, Bran is asked by his Lord Father, Ned Stark, "Do you understand why I had to kill that dude? Like, yes, he was a deserter of the Night's Watch. Like, yes, he broke the laws. But do you understand why I had to kill him?" And Bran's like, "I don't know. Tell me, Daddy." And Ned informs him that the man who writes the sentence, if you pass that sentence, you gotta be the one to swing the sword. So basically, in modern day, if a judge gives a death sentence, the judge should be the one who has to do it, right? You have to carry that guilt for the rest of your life, right? That's the ultimate one true principle you could take away from that, right? Is that, like, no, you as a person are not good enough to judge another human, right? That's why we leave fates up to gods, whatever you believe in, you know what I'm saying? But, like, if you are going to do it, you should have to be the one to carry the burden of that person's death for the rest of your life. That's the main theme that our boy Ned Stark is teaching to 7-year-old Bran. Bran should be not learning shit like this, but also it's good because it prepares him for what's going to eventually happen in the story, right? Now, one thing that is really important in that conversation is that Bran asks his dad, like, is it normal to be afraid before you die, right? Like, wouldn't you be brave, right? And Ned, this is like the most iconic line from the books. One of them is like, the only time you can be brave is when you're afraid. You can't be brave and not be afraid of nothing, because then you're an idiot, right? It's really important. The only time you can truly be courageous is in the face of fear. Deep ass lines from the books, and I keep looking over here because that's where the shotgun mic is. But just continuing on, they keep riding, right? So eventually Ned and y'all probably can't even hear that. So eventually Ned and Bran catch up with Jon Snow and Robb and Theon, and they discover a dead direwolf, right? Jon's like, "Lord Father, Lord Ned," right? It's interesting that he says the very formal way of addressing his father, right? Because before that, Bran notices that his father's face has been somewhat changed to the Lord face, right? He looked a lot older than he actually is. I had to make sure the mic was still on. So after Jon addresses him, he tells him, "Look, there's 5 direwolf pups for 5 of your children." And Bran's like, "Hold up. I know what you did there, Jon. You excluded yourself." And Ned's like, "You don't want one, Jon?" And Jon's like, "The direwolf is on House Stark's banner. I am not of House Stark," right? Kind of sad. So then they convince their father, right? So Robb's like, I'll take a rag and soak warm milk in it, and I'll feed my pup." And Bran's like, "Me too, Daddy. I'll do that too, Daddy." And then they finally convince Ned to let them keep the puppies, and then they ride off, right? Jon stops suddenly and rides back. He's like, "Y'all hear that? Y'all hear that?" It's basically George telling us that Jon Snow was able to warg immediately with Ghost. Jon basically wargs into Ghost, doesn't realize it, and goes back and picks him up because he was forced away from the direwolf mom's carcass by the other 5 direwolf pups. And when they left, Ghost comes back, and Jon hears that and goes and gets Ghost, and then bam, that's the end of the chapter. Theon has an exchange of words with him. He's like, "Oh, look, that's an albino. That albino pup's gonna die before the rest of them," right? Not the case. Ghost is gonna outsurvive everyone. What's interesting about Ghost's appearance is that his eyes are said to be as red as the man Garrett who had just died. Also, Ghost is, because he's got red eyes and he's called Ghost, it's also interesting that every single character with red eyes in this story is a ghost, right? So it kind of makes you wonder about Melisandre. Is she really alive, right? She's got those bright red fiery eyes. And then in particular, the Woods Witch, the Ghost of High Heart, right? She's got red eyes as well. And in the earlier books, I believe maybe A Clash of Kings, maybe it's In a Storm, I can't remember. But Arya's traveling with the Brotherhood, and they basically, at nighttime, this ghost of Highheart shows up, and she's this dwarven woman who offers them rumors and reports about what's going on in the Riverlands. And she always asks for wine. She's very thirsty, right? So a lot of people think that she's a ghost. Or a goddess, kind of. You have to offer something to the gods to get something in return, so maybe that's wine. Maybe she's the drowned god of tits and wine, who knows, right? But yeah, I don't know. You all let me know what you think down below, and the next POV will be up within the next week or two. Depends on how well this video does. I want to pace them out, because these videos take a lot longer to make and research. Thank you all for watching. My name's Mark, and this has been Sir Hunts! Look, I can do this because I'm on camera now. Reviews.